Okay. Anyways, we're starting here. Yeshua Aleph Pasuk Gimel. Pasuk says, "Kol makom asher tadrוך kaf רגלכם, lechem nesativ." Any place where you will place your feet down will be yours. Lechem nesativ. I'm giving it to you. Kasher dibarti al Moshe, like I spoke to Moshe. Now, what's fascinating is that this pasuk and the next pasuk are kemat, not 100%, but around 95% an exact quote of a pasuk in Chumash. And the Mefarshim are medayik, all kinds of diyukim. What's the difference between the pasuk here and what's the difference between the pasuk there? Not going to get into that. We'll see Rashi and we'll take it from there, and we'll see what we'll discuss with this. So Rashi quotes a Sifri and says like this: similar thing was said to Moshe. Shanina b'Sifri, we learned that the Sifri in Parshas Ekev. It's Perkei Aleph pasuk Chav Daled, and the Sifri says like this: Im l'lamed al tchumei Eretz Yisrael. If the pshat is that this pasuk is coming to teach us the borders and the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael, Harehu Aimer. The next pasuk it says, Me'amidbar v'Lavonin hazeh, from the Midbar and the Lavonin. It's a big question what Lavonin is. Hopefully we'll get to that next week. Im kein lama nemer kol makom asher tadrוך kaf. What does it mean when the pasuk says any place where you'll put your feet down, right? You'll walk on. Av chutz la'aretz. It's coming to teach you even chutz la'aretz. What does that mean? Mishetich b'shu es ha'aretz. Once you're kaivish Eretz Yisrael, kol mashetich b'shu mechutz la'aretz yiyah. Any part that yiyah kodesh v'yeshalachem. Any part of chutz la'aretz surrounding Eretz Yisrael that you'll walk on, that you'll walk through. So you'll be kaivish that, and it will become kadosh, and it will become yours. It's kedai to look in the Sifri to see exactly what the Sifri, how the Sifri says it. The Yalkut Shimoni over here quotes the Sifri, exactly the way it's wrote down. And I'll read it. Im l'lamed al tchumei ha'aretz harei kvar nemar me'amid bar lavonin hazeh u'ma talmud lemer kol makom asher tadrוך ha'makom. So ha'makom kol makom shetichvushu chutz me'hamakom halolu harei mishalachem. Meaning, even though the Torah gives you the gvulos, the borders and the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael, but if you have a ratzon, which we know David HaMelech did, and we know there's many nafkaminas la'alacha about Eva Yarden and Surya and Aram Naraim, Aram Tzaiba, all these areas. There's big shmuz, there's a big shmuz. There's a big shmuz about. Anyway, so the pasuk is saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Yeshua that he could conquer any part of Eretz Yisrael that he's going to conquer. Not only that, but the Sifri is saying that even if there are parts of Chutz La'aretz that he wants to conquer, he could do that as well. Now, the Zach is like this. We know that he could. The Sifri continues and says that there was a taina. And I want to get back to this in a different share, but it says that the pasuk is not coming to teach us the borders of Eretz Yisrael. It's coming to teach us that if we conquer all the parts of Eretz Yisrael that we need to, then after we finish that, then we could go and conquer any areas of Chutz La'aretz, and it will become ours as well. That's what the Sifri says. And the Sifri says a lashon very just interesting. He says that you can't leave Eretz Yisrael a place. Eretz Yisrael is a place that's kadosh, obviously, so it has certain rules and regulations for its kedusha, right? Kol makom asher tadrוך kaf רגלכם shaloi tehei Eretz Yisrael metuma b'gilulim v'atem chayzim v'chapshim chutz la'aretz. He says, avad you could conquer chutz la'aretz, but you first have to eradicate the avodah zarah from Eretz Yisrael, and only then can you move into conquering chutz la'aretz. It's just an interesting thing that the Parshas is that obviously is getting rid of the goyim, but the ikar nesayin of getting rid of the goyim in Eretz Yisrael is getting rid of their avodah zarah. I mean, that's the psukim of Chumash to say that you have to get rid of all the es mizbechaisim titoitzin and tishaberon, to get rid of and destroy every last little bit of their existence to get rid of them. And then once you do that, now once you're kaivish chutz la'aretz, so then it has a din of Eretz Yisrael. So the mitzvahs of Eretz Yisrael are noyag and chutz la'aretz as well. And it brings a drasha. Nemar kan yiyah v'nemar lahalon yiyah ma yiyah ha'omer lahalon mitzvahs noyag goysham. Just like over there, yiyah is referring to the mitzvahs of Eretz Yisrael. Av yiyah ha'omer kan mitzvahs noyag goysham. So over here, where it says yiyah, it means that the mitzvahs are going to be noyag there. Now, there's many big sugyas throughout Shas of the mitzvahs here and the mitzvahs in Evar Yarden. Besides for that, there's also a big shmuz that starts in the Gemara Gittin and Daf Ches that discusses Surya as also some kind of annex to Eretz Yisrael, and there's a whole shmuz of kibush rabim, kibush yochid. So the basics really is like this. This pasuk is telling us that if there's a kibush of Gans Klal Yisrael does the kibush the way that they should, then all these areas will have a din of Eretz Yisrael. A kibush yochid doesn't have the same halacha because it wasn't done by Gans Klal Yisrael, so the kedusha is going to be different. The Sifri goes on to say that there was a time on David HaMelech when he was kovish different places. It's a big shmuz because some places elsewhere in Chazal doesn't look down on David HaMelech for doing that. And halacha, there's an afkamina. The Rambam at the beginning of Hilchos Trumas, the Rambam at the beginning of Hilchos Klein talks about all these parts of Eretz Yisrael being included in Eretz Yisrael. So it couldn't have been that bad. But I want to leave that for now. I just want to talk about the concept of being marchiv the gvulos hakdusha. It's very interesting. There's a Rashi in Parshas Vayechi that says by the bracha of Yosef, it says at havas givos olam. So what does that mean? So Rashi says lefisha bracha shali govru at sev gvulei givos olam. The brachas that I gave were strengthened and were in power until the end of the boundaries of the entire world. Shanasan li bracha prutza, gave him an open bracha, meaning a bracha that didn't stop by the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael. Believe mitzorim agas adal k'tzais olam, to all four corners of the world. Shenama faratz the yom of a kain of tzafon of a negba, mashaloi omer l'Avram Avinu liYitzchak. Avram had a bracha, and the Rashi goes on. Avram, it says, son einech rei kes kala oretz asher at rei l'chot nena. V'lei harei el Eretz Yisrael b'vad. Hashem showed him you're going to get Eretz Yisrael, you're not going to get anything else. Yitzchak Omar Loi, he told Yitzchak, ki l'chol zarach eten es kol ha'aratzei sa'el, v'kimaisi sa'shvua. It says you're going to get these lands. These lands was referring to Eretz Yisrael and maybe a little bit of outside Eretz Yisrael, like the bordering places. But by Yaakov it says, but the pasuk in Yeshaya says, "V'hachalticha nachlas Yaakov avicha, v'lo nachlas Avram." That's how Rashi ends off. And the nachla of Yaakov we know is the nachla b'li mitzarim, like the Gemara Shabbos says, that somebody who's shomer Shabbos properly gets a nachla b'li mitzarim because that was the nachla of Yaakov Avinu that didn't have any boundaries. It's just interesting, like Vus Epis by Yaakov. There's a lot of Torah on this, but Vus Epis that we find Afka by Yaakov Avinu that he's the one that gets the nachla b'li mitzarim. So the midah of Yaakov Avinu is Torah, which is also kedusha. I mean, we find in this expansion more by the Pachim Ketanim that he went to get back. Who cares, right? But there's a certain kedusha that he was machshav everything. So the Brisker explains that by Yaakov Avinu was nischadish this idea that any part of land, any piece of land that Klal Yisrael is going to be kovish, it can translate and be turned into kedushas Eretz Yisrael, and that's the pshat in the pasuk in Dvarim where the Sifri is going on. That the Sifri says. The pasuk in Dvarim said, and Akev says, "Kol hamakom asher tedrוך kaf רגלכם רגלכם yiyeh min hamidbar v'alavon and min hanor nahar paras v'ad yam ha'achron yeh gvulchem." Meaning that the boundaries will keep on getting pushed out further and further. And he brings this. The Brisker brings this Sifri, and he explains that this is the idea of the nachla b'li mitzarim. And it's interesting because in this pasuk's parasha, the pasuk says, "Ha'aretz asher ata sheicha v'le'lechat inenu zarecha." I'm going to give you this land. Now Rashi says a very interesting thing over there. Rashi says HaKadosh Baruch Hu folded up the entire Eretz Yisrael. Keep HaKadosh Baruch Hu kol Eretz Yisrael tachtav. Ramaz loy shetahei noichel likavish levanav. The idea was that it should be easier for him to conquer it. I mean, it was already, so to speak, it was already given to him, right? But that was given to him was Davka Eretz Yisrael. But the other parts, the surrounding areas where the Sifri is saying that after we conquer Eretz Yisrael, we could conquer these areas. There's a haftacha of ufaratzta. That means that we're not limited to the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael. We're going to push the boundaries, we're going to push the borders, and we're going to go to all around and all over the place to establish kedusha and to establish kedusha Eretz Yisrael. Right, exactly. Now the Pasha says, I mean, in the Psukim, the pasuk in Dvarim is also pretty clear like this. That you first have to, because the pasuk says v'yirash them goyim gedolim atzumim mikem, and then it says kol hamakom asher tedrוך. When you first got to destroy, means that this is say that dvarim. You can't just do whatever you want. You have to get rid of the goyim in Eretz Yisrael. And once you do that kibush, then you could go ahead and do whatever you need to do after that. the Malbim says something interesting. The Malbim says that we know from Chazal. I mean, this is the Malbim. The Malbim spoke this idea already earlier in Sefer Yeshua, that if Moshe would have came over to Eretz Yisrael, there wouldn't have been any Milchamis. He would have came in and everybody would have just got rid of them. Just by walking around, they would have just knocked everybody down. And that's really, in a certain sense, Yeshua still had a certain Siyata D'Shmaya and a certain Ha'ara and a certain Kedusha that was left from Moshe Rabbeinu. And he got this Haftacha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu also. You'll be able to conquer and be kodesh. I just want to speak out something very interesting that the Mishnah Masechta Chala says that Afar Chutz La'aretz Shabab Esfina La'aretz is Chayiv B'Maisus B'Shvius. The dirt of Chutz La'aretz that comes into Eretz Yisrael by boat, so that land, once it gets into Eretz Yisrael, is Chayiv in Maisus and Shvius. In this case, it's a big shiloh. What does that mean exactly? The Pashtus is Machlekes in Yerushalmi, but the Pashtus is that this boat is docked right in Eretz Yisrael area, because otherwise there's no Havamina. So one of the Rishonim is Reben Malki Tzedek. Reb Shmuel Rozovsky brings this in a few places. He brings this idea that he says like this, that Hagdelim ba'oisei afar, anything that grows from this afar, from this dirt, chayavim b'maisus b'shvius tichsiv. What's the pasuk that he brings? Kol malkom asher tedrוך kaf רגלכם רגלכם yiyah. Koloimar, he says, Kol afar she'atem darchem רגלכם aleha be'eretz Yisrael yiyah lechem. Any afar that's in Eretz Yisrael, regardless of whether it comes from Eretz Yisrael or not, if there's afar that's in Eretz Yisrael, it becomes part of Eretz Yisrael and it has kedushas haaretz to the point that the mitzvahs atluis ba'aretz are mechuyev on this clump of dirt, which is a fascinating chiddush because be'etzem it's not Eretz Yisrael. It's from Japan. It's from America. It could be from anywhere, right? But I want to be miyashiv a kasha I had in this past week's parasha with this. It's a very interesting pasuk. The pasuk says when Yaakov Avinu is having the nevuah with the Mara Sulam, the pasuk says ha'aretz asher ata sheikha v'leil lechatz and enol zaracha. That's the pasuk uses the word aretz, and the pasuk continues v'ayz zaracha kafar ha'aretz v'feratzim v'kedim v'tzon v'neg v'chulu v'nivruchu b'chal kol mishpachos adam v'zaracha. Fine. Then it says v'hinei yonechi imach u'shmartich b'chol asher teilech v'ashivasicha el ha'adama hazayis. I'll return you to this earth. What do you mean you'll return to this earth? Before you said ha'aretz, and now you're using the word ha'adama. Right? So, I don't know, what is that? I mean, it also says, right? But, so, I don't know, this is what came to mind when I saw the Psuk. I mean, it's very interesting, because, why does the Pasuk change? So, the Targum Grada learns at Kipshutai, that it means the Aretz. Adam and Aretz, the same thing, it's interchangeable. Well, there's got to be something more to it than that. So, some Sefer Taka says Pshat. Some Sefer is explaining another Pasuk, and he says, "Va'achla eschem eretz veichem." What does that mean? That you'll be consumed in the land of your enemies. What does that mean? He says that when Klal Yisrael lives in different areas outside of Yisrael, when we're in Galus, so we get mushba from those areas. We eat their foods and we feed into their culture a little bit, and even if we try not to, it seeps in anyways, right? And even the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, in a certain sense, other non-holy people come to Eretz Yisrael, and it doesn't necessarily look like it has the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. Like they say, the guy's so excited to go to Eretz Yisrael, he gets off the plane, lands in Ben Gurion, and doesn't see all those Shalmi Yidden running around. He sees Tel Aviv, he sees the people in the airport. It's not as that picture of kedusha, the picture of Halakite that he has in his mind, dissipates pretty quickly and gets disappointed, right? But HaKadosh Baruch Hu's maftiach that no matter what happens, there's still going to be a kedusha that's going to be holding on to, that Eretz Yisrael will always hold on to. Now, not only that, but it's bi'achaylos. We have the ability as Yidden to be mekadosh any area that we go to. But he says like this, that the tivei Eretz HaKedusha is going to be nischalef b'tivei Eretz HaAmim. That the nature of the kedusha is going to be nischalef, is going to be changed up with the teva of the Eretz HaAmim. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu's maftiach shelo yislach lech v'lo yishana tiva miteva Eretz HaKedusha. That the teva of Eretz Yisrael is going to blind the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael no matter who's there, no matter what's there. And that's what he says. V'ashivasicha ala hadama hazois. That's and v'hainu. I'm reading this. I'm sorry for that. V'hainu the Omer Yaakov Avinu v'shavti b'shalom al beis avi. Pirish Rashi b'loy chet. And that meaning, if there's going to be other people in Eretz Yisrael, then the Shmira of Eretz Yisrael, that Yaakov Avinu is not going to be chaytei, it's not going to be holding because it's a land like any other land. Mechatesi that there should be any kedusha. Mechatesi that there should be any shmira. But there's something in the teva of the ground of Eretz Yisrael, the etzem, that gives Eretz Yisrael its flavor. Memela, that's why he says Vashivaysicha Doma Hazois, returning to the actual land of Eretz Yisrael. And I think it's very geshmak in our posuk over here also. Tadrוך kaf רגלכם. What does kaf רגלכם mean? Kaf רגלכם doesn't mean your feet. It means the actual palm of your foot will be directly on the land of Eretz Yisrael. So it's very interesting because the Mekubalim have a lot of Torah about wearing shoes. That shoes are supposed to be mafsik between the mensch, which is a baruch, to the orah ha'adama. So we wear shoes to make that hefsik. But the Mekubalim write that in Eretz Yisrael, there's more makom to not have to wear shoes because you're walking in a makom kadosh. Now we know in the Beis Hamikdash didn't wear shoes, and Moshe had Shal Nalechem al Raglecha, but there's a pasuk that says that David HaMelech ran up Har HaZeisim Yachef. He went up Har HaZeisim without shoes at all. To show us this nekuda that there's no hefsek. Eretz Yisrael has a bracha in it, and you want to connect physically to that bracha. So that's Kol Makom Asher Tadrוך Kaf רגלכם. The Malbim in and I believe it's in Parshas Chukas, has a big arichas about this because there's most of the time it says רגלכם, and here it says Kaf רגלכם. What's the difference between Kaf רגלכם and רגלכם? רגלכם means wherever you're walking. It doesn't necessarily, obviously, you walk with your feet, but there's no, we're not specifying anything more specific than just walking around. However you're walking around. But Kaf רגלכם means the actual physical foot, wherever you're placing it down. So the passage of this pasuk means wherever they're going to go, that malkum is going to become Kaddish B'Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. But over here I want to say that it's not just that, it's the Afar of Eretz Yisrael, the land of Eretz Yisrael, the actual physical ground of Eretz Yisrael that you're putting your foot on. That physical connection between your foot and the land of Eretz Yisrael is creating a certain connection, is creating a certain Kedusha. It says take it a step further. This is going to sound a little bit, it's a shtickle tief of art, but I think it's very good it's kedai to know this. We know the Gemara Tzmura, we mentioned earlier that there were 1,700 halachas that were forgotten. There was 17, I'll just read the Lashon of Gemara. There were 1,700 sveikas of Torah that were forgotten in the days of Abelus of Moshe Rabbeinu. Omer Babo, Afal Pikein Hechzirin Asnil ben Kenaz B'Pilpulei. That Afal Pikein Asnil ben Kenaz was able to be maxed B'Pilpulei. He was able to learn up the sugis. He was able to remind everybody what these halachas were. So it's very interesting. The Brisker Rav says very interesting about this Gemara. It's kedai to know it. Keep it in mind when you learn a Gemara about Gzeir Shava, right? Gzeir Shava we know is halacha Moshe Misinai, right? But there's a shaila. Adam dan Gzeir Shava me'atzmai. Ein Adam dan Gzeir Shava me'atzmai. Right? For the most part, we say not. Taisus in a few places says that you could. Question is, what does that mean? If you don't have a Messiah on it, then you can't make it up because halacha Moshe Misinai. Or Bezak the Brisker Rav could be there's a Gzeir Shava that was forgotten by Me'avli Shal Moshe, and this is what Asnil ben Kenaz was maximum B'Pilpulei. So we don't have it direct. It's not necessarily that it's mamish direct from Asnil ben Kenaz. Okay, that's Stama kedai to know. Now I don't know. It could help. I think it could help in different sugyas. I'm not thinking of anything specific. I mean, I know in Baba Kama I think by Sumchis, by Tzreiris, I think that's where this Brisker Rav, they all bring this Brisker Rav and Tmura to be miyash of the Gemara over there. Because what does it mean? That he's chaylik on the Gzeir Shava? Okay, but that's a separate thing. Shenamar, and the Gemara continues, Vayomer Kalev Ashiyake Ki HaSefer V'Lochda. So the Arvei Nachal, which is a Gevaldig Sefer, if you ever get get time to learn it, is shtiklach on the parsha, and they're very sadistic, it's teeth, but it's very sadistic Zachan over there. And he explains that Eretz Yisrael it has a certain shleimus to it. I'm just going to read the lashon. Every spot in Eretz Yisrael, every area of Eretz Yisrael, every piece of dirt, if you will, is mechuven keneged another halacha. So you're walking around in Eretz Yisrael. You're walking like in a sefer. You're walking in a davar kadosh. And these halachas that were nishtakach b'mei evel shel Moshe, they are mekaron ba'admas Eretz Yisrael. The makar of these halachas is in the ground of Eretz Yisrael, and like the pasuk says, it was in Kiryas Sefer, which would make sense. Kiryas Sefer, that's what he was learning, and that's the pasuk in Shoftim that we're talking about. Asnil ben Kenaz, very strange l'shainis in the psukim over there, and the Gemara darshans all of it, and the Mefarshim darshan all of it, because it's very strange things. But Kiryas Sefer is a book, or it's something that he learned. It's the name of a place. I mean, now we know it's the name of a place, but it's more than that. There's the Oimik over here, and that is the Kedusha. The Kedusha Eretz Yisrael is like a Sefer Torah, is like the Torah itself, and wherever you're walking, you're connecting to halachas. I mean, besides the physical mitzvahs hatliyas ba'aretz, and besides the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael and walking in Eretz Yisrael and all those kinds of things, is be'etzem Kedusha, and every spot has a halacha. And but it's interesting because the pasuk says that he was loichet. It means like he chapped it, he grabbed it. What does that mean? So he says al yedei that Osnil ben Kenaz was able to chap on to where in Eretz Yisrael these halachas were. Memela, by them going into Eretz Yisrael and conquering the different parts of Eretz Yisrael, they're able to be chayzer and be mechad and to recapture, so to speak, those halachas that were forgotten b'mei Avla Shel Moshe. And we know that the shikha, forgetting Torah, came about because of the shviras haluchas. If Moshe Rabbeinu wouldn't have broken the luchas, there wouldn't be any shikha Torah. And like we spoke in the first year, that everybody would know the oimik of everything from Torah Shabbat through and through, and there'd be no need, like the Gemara says, there'd be no need for anything other than Chamish Chom Torah and Sefer Yeshua. Sefer Yeshua meaning Eretz Yisrael. But the Torah says. The Torah ends off Le'enei Kol Yisrael, and Rashi says that it was he broke the luchas Le'enei Kol Yisrael, and Rashi says Yasher Kochacha Shechibarta. Why are we saying Shkoyach to Moshe for breaking the luchas? Like what good did that do for us? So we know the rate over here already that the pshat is that until then we didn't have to be mi'ageh on Torah, and now we'll have to be mi'ageh on Torah, and that's really what Osnil ben Kenaz was doing. He was going into Eretz Yisrael and he was finding these halachas that were nishtakach b'mei Avla Shel Moshe in the physical parts of Eretz Yisrael where he was able to bring it out. And so the psukim stem very nicely, because the previous pasuk said, Moshe Avdi Meis, Moshe died, V'ata kum avaras Yarden hazeh, now cross over the Yarden. And now, our pasuk Gimel, Kamakam Asher Tedrוך Kaf רגלכם, Boy Lechem Nasativ. What's Boy Lechem Nasativ? I don't know, Lechem Nasativ. What's Boy? Boy means, in the land, I'm giving you these halachas that were nishtakach b'mei Avla Shel Moshe. There's a skula of Eretz Yisrael that the halachas live, that the Torah is alive in Eretz Yisrael, in the Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. But it's just interesting that there's Talmud Bavli and Talmud Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi is mostly in Eretz Yisrael. Talmud Bavli, the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, the Gemara says is the machshakim ha'yishivani k'meisei olam, machshakim in the darkness. That's Talmud Bavel. That's Talmud Bavli. And throughout the Gemara says, "Oh, you said Shmaitza the Machashchan because you Yasva ba'ara the Chashaycha." He says you say dark shmuas because you live in a dark place. Bavel is a dark place compared to Talmud Yerushalmi. I think there's a drasha somewhere Chazal. I don't remember exactly where or what, but that Yerushalmi is referred to as a or. Just Simon Interessant. But the Gemara also in Sanhedrin on Kuftes, the Sugma Migdal Bavel. The Gemara there says that Aver Migdal Meshakeach, that the Mokum of Migdal Bavel makes you forget. Well, we know they'll forget the languages, they'll forget how to communicate like human beings, and then maybe they were not human beings anymore. But that's the nakud that I want to bring out over here. That's what Kol Mokum Asher Tedrוך Kaf רגלכם, when you're walking with your physical connection to Eretz Yisrael, in a sense, is as physical as you're feeling it. There's so much kedusha that lies in that. And just it's not interesting. We should mention this earlier, but the Gemara says in Megillah, everyone knows. Well, I think every kid knows this, that all the shuls and all the Bate Knesses and all the Bate Midrashos are going to fly to Eretz Yisrael when Mashiach comes. Right? It's not what the Gemara says, but the Gemara says that they're going to be transported to Eretz Yisrael. Pashtus is, and the Marshal learns like this, and most people learn like this, that Lasad Lavai, the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael is going to be in Espashit throughout the ganze Welt. So if you have Eretz Yisrael, if it's going to get it to here also, so then the shuls are going to have Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. But even without going to that, the fact that this shul and every other Bismedrish anywhere in the world is a Mikdash Ma'at, it's because we have this kayach, like we spoke from Yaakov Avinu, that gives us this yichaylis, that gives us this ability to create Kedusha wherever we're going. Not only that, but I saw that some of Farshim learned that the Gemara says in Brachas, that al yiftar adam mechaveri al miteich dvar halacha, shemiteich kach zechreyu, is the pshat that we want to spread Torah to any place, anywhere. So even if I'm saying goodbye to you and I'm not going to see you, but you're going to be thinking in learning. You're going to be thinking about this Vart that I'm sharing with you on the way. So there's going to be Torah throughout of it there also. But the zach is like this, that we know that so there is a place. The Gemara is saying that there is a place that there wasn't a Churban Beis Hamikdash, that the Kedusha is still there. That's our Beit Knesset, and that's our Batim Drash that still exists. That's the Mikdash Mat, and that's what the Gemara says in the Gemara says of there in Brachas, Ikasavi beBavel, and the Marsha over there is pretty clear. The Marsha tells too that Gemara in Megillah that Asidim Beit Knesset of Batim Drash is to be in Eretz Yisrael, because we're still connected. We never got disconnected. The shuls that we have today is still part of Eretz Yisrael. So I want to end up with a very interesting thought that I had. I don't know if I'm right or wrong with this, but it was something that hit me. It was a very interesting idea. The Gemara says in Bava Metzia Daf Pei Hey that Reb Zera, when he went to Eretz Yisrael, he fasted 100 Tanesim. Why? So he should forget Teras Bavel, and he should be Zoycha to be kind of Teras Eretz Yisrael. What's the gematria? Yeah. What's the gematria of Kaf? Kaf רגלכם is 100. Reb Zera wanted to connect to Eretz Yisrael in this way. I don't know. I didn't see anybody saying anything like this. It's my own. What's wrong with that? I don't know that that's wrong. I don't know if that's right. I just didn't see anybody saying this. I thought it was very interesting. And let's read Lashon Gemara. Reb Zera kisalik la'arad Yisrael Yosef me'atanisa d'lashtakach Gemara ba'avla minei kehech le'nitrudei. You need to have a certain clarkite. You know, Gemara says you can't go from a dark place to a light place too quickly, and you got to work on it. The Gemara says in Barachas and Daf Hey that one of the things that's not going to be surim is Eretz Yisrael. You can't just plop into Eretz Yisrael. I think my grandfather said a Maisa once that Rav Gustman preferred to go to Eretz Yisrael by boat rather than by plane, because he said he's got to work on it. You can't just plop into Eretz Yisrael. You can't just show up. You got to work on it. You got to get the madrega of kedusha. And really, the Metzias is that like we said, that we're the harchavas hakdusha of Eretz Yisrael, of Kol Makom Asher Tadrוך רגלכם. So, although the parashas of the pasuk is it's talking about that specifically in Eretz Yisrael, or the borders around Eretz Yisrael, or the areas around Eretz Yisrael, to the point where the Sifri says that those areas are going to be mechuyev in mitzvahs, meaning in all the mitzvahs that Tlias Ba'aretz, right? So there's always two things. I mean, there's a mitzvah at Tlias Ba'aretz, which would sound like, it's lav dafka because of any specific kedusha, right? There's maisus and trumas and shvius and klayim and orla and bikurim and everything. But then there's the etzem kedusha sa'aretz. I mean, obviously they're interrelated. You can't say that obviously the reason why all the mitzvahs are there is because of the kedusha sa'aretz, right? I mean, the famous Ramban. Ramban says that the ikar kiyam mitzvahs is in Eretz Yisrael. And really, we're just the fact that we do mitzvahs in chutz haaretz is really because we're practicing, to get there. But I think that's a very good thing to realize what the Kedushas Eretz Yisrael is all about, and how we can be zeichet to Kedushas Eretz Yisrael even if we're not there. People say, "Oh, you got to move to Eretz Yisrael." Why? I'm not saying you should, you shouldn't. I mean, everyone can do whatever they want, but the concept of going to Eretz Yisrael is to be in the Malkam HaKodesh, to be in the Kedusha, to be involved in the Kedushas Haaretz. But in a certain sense, we have a way to do it here too, right? Not saying we shouldn't go, but if we can't go, and if we're going to be stuck, or if flights cost too much these days, we could do it here, and we should be zeichet to get all the kedusha that we need to get, and all the hashbais of Eretz Yisrael.